The war rages in Israel. The new conflict prompted by Hamas's terrorist attacks has resulted now in a definitive axis of evil. This week, Russia hosted a pair of delegations from Hamas and Iran to discuss Gaza. They also discussed how they can cooperate in the area of ballistic missiles to counter recent sanctions on Iran. Russia's foreign minister also traveled to Tehran this week to directly meet with Iran's president. And meanwhile, China, it's also ramping up its aggression, too. On Thursday, the U.S. military said that a Chinese fighter jet got within 10 feet of a B-52 on October 24th over the South China Sea. A lot to talk about. Joining us now, managing editor at the Daily Signal, Tyler O'Neill. Also joining us, counterterrorism and foreign policy expert, Lisa Daftari. Tyler, let's start off with you and where this kind of all started. You wrote an incredible article about oil, about this. Everyone keeps talking about the $6 billion that the President Biden, he freed up. But they're neglecting to mention the $70 billion in oil sales thanks to Joe Biden, his declaration of war against the fossil fuel industry. The United States was energy independent. Now, because of Joe Biden, we are dependent on our adversaries to buy oil from them. So break it all down for us.
Thanks, Lydia. Yeah, so what we saw under the Biden administration is two things that empowered Iran. First, President Biden, when he was campaigning for president, said he would shut down any ability to drill ever, period. And that was one of the big promises he made. When he came into office, he immediately implemented an anti-energy strategy. At the same time, he also promised a new détente with Iran, pushing toward an Iran deal that would empower the #1 state sponsor of terrorism across the globe. And because he had been signaling a weakening of the sanctions against Iran, many of Iran's allies across the world, most notably China, decided to buy more Iran oil and enrich the coffers of the mullahs. And so what I found, I analyzed how much Iran has netted under the Biden administration. It would not have netted under Trump. And at $52 billion extra in oil sales. Another $10 billion that was freed up in money that was held in Iraq is now available for Iran. And then there are also steel sales. There are also some other issues where the Biden administration's laxness, in particular, their messaging of détente with Iran, increased Iran's ability to sell to our enemies, as you mentioned, the rising axis of evil, and to those countries that otherwise might have been too scared, as they were under Trump, to invest heavily in Iran. And this is all in addition to, the $71 billion I found, that's in addition to the $6 billion that everybody has been talking about, and rightly so, because that money also goes directly to Iran. And the more money Iran has, money is fungible, the more it can give to its Hamas fighters that it's supporting, and leading to the horrific, the worst attack we've seen against the Jewish people since the Holocaust.
That's a great breakdown. A lot of mullah for the mullahs to do whatever they want and making them basically a superpower. Lisa, I think the United States, it's not supporting Israel as strongly as it should be. We allow members of Congress to spew lies, accuse Israel of a genocide. Jay Appel just said it on the Sunday morning talk shows. They are getting absolutely no condemnation by Biden. Are we now setting ourselves up for an attack? Because we are not showing peace through strength. And Israel is our strongest ally. There's a reason why Iran, you see them in the streets chanting, calling the United States Big Satan and Israel Little Satan.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we're seeing around the globe leads to the White House's weakness and the messaging that's coming out of the White House. What we're looking at right now are only really the conclusions of what has been built up during the Biden presidency. And that is exactly what you said, the way we handled Afghanistan. It's a message to our enemies, the way that we're handling the southern border. We're open for business. Just come right in, whoever you are. And, this is all leading up to what we're watching unfortunately unfold onto the Israelis. But what we're actually seeing is Iran's proxy war against the big Satan, which is the United States, and the little Satan, which is Israel. This is something that the Ayatollah Khomeini, who was the architect of the 1979 Iranian Revolution, swore. That was his platform is to attack the big Satan, which is the United States, and the little Satan. And this is being repeated by their supreme leader right now. So when we allow members of Iran's regime to come to the UN and spew whatever hatred they want, when we allow members of or Hamas to get all this aid money because it's in the name of humanitarian aid, right now a lot of Israelis and a lot of Americans are happy with the way that President Biden is handling the Israel situation. And that is because perhaps many Jews in the United States and, of course, in Israel are desperate for some support from the West. But when we really break it down, could they be more supportive? Absolutely. The fact that you said the squad in Congress, what have we ever, whether there's a Democrat in office or a Republican in office, what have we ever wavered on where we stood on our support for Israel, our only democratic ally in the Middle East? This should not be the case. We don't need podium talk. People can see right through that. And I think what President Biden is doing is trying to get reelected. He's playing both sides. He speaks to the terrorists. He talks about the Palestinian death toll. He'll talk about getting money to Gaza, which is in effect to Hamas. And he'll, of course, give some support verbally to Israel, but definitely not enough. And we need much more for our ally.
We absolutely do. Lisa Daftari, Tyler O'Neill. You know, my mother, there's a famous Albanian quote, old school, and it says, you can't eat with two spoons. You try that. And that's what I feel like the Biden administration is trying to do. You have to take a strong stand. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.